So it seems India has reasserted its war doctrine change. As we heard yesterday also, the government had said that any act of terror is going to be taken by India as an act of war. So government has clearly stated that it is not defining any terror threshold. So there it is, no clear definition as to what is a terror threshold. And one thing is clear, it is definitely much lower than what it was for India earlier. India has put up with many acts of terror, but now India has clearly stated that any act of terror will be taken as an act of war. So going back across to Geeta Mohan for this. Geeta, yesterday also we heard this. Now India is reiterating its change in its war doctrine. Now can you try and explain to us what you just told us about POK, and the talks would only be about handing back of the POK and the stance towards terrorism together. What they mean as far as India's messaging to the world at large is concerned, and also to the superpowers who usually play the big brother act during negotiations.
Well, the message is very clear that the new normal for India is not to normalize relations with Pakistan. That the new normal is that Pakistan is a country the way it is. It is a military dictatorship, and to deal with a country whose focus is purely on, and the top agenda is anti-India activities in Kashmir, which was spelled out by none other than the army chief Asim Munir himself. And if that's the agenda, then you can never look at normalizing ties with a country that does not seek normalization but only talks of it. And in such a scenario, then there are red lines that have to be drawn. And the red line over here is that terrorism will not be tolerated. In the past, when there were terror attacks that would take place, there used to be an entire to and fro conversation, maybe a few decisions of stopping a few things with Pakistan, not doing business with Pakistan, downgrading ties a lot, but sharing dossier, then sharing dossier with international partners. This time around, the play has changed. India says that if there is an act of terror that is state-supported and sponsored, as has been the case in the Pahalgam terror attack, then the state is involved. And if the state is involved, then it's a military response that you will be getting, which means an act of terror from Pakistan will indeed be considered as an act of war, and therefore will be responded through military action, which is what was seen. Now, there are a lot of questions that have been asked with regards to how India responded, what happened with the world community, how did they come? So there were a lot of concerns that were raised. A lot of countries, according to sources, who called India, some of them expressed concern, some tried to be rather preachy. India told all of them that we have done what we had to. We took down the most important terror targets that have been on our list for decades, and Pakistan has done nothing about it. There's an entire explainer of why Bahawalpur, why Muridke, why were they important, why Muzaffarabad, why was that important? All that explanation given, and then the American side, of course, trying to look at whether if there can be some sort of a negotiation. Marco Rubio speaking to everyone, but again over here, the conversation that Asim Munir had with Marco Rubio was important, because India's message was, we struck, we will not strike if they do not. We struck only terror targets, but if they strike, we will strike harder. Prime Minister's message was, there are three vectors that we're looking at: military, political, and psychological. The military vector, Prime Minister very clearly sent out a message saying, mitti mein mila denge, which means that if you're going to attack us, we are going to hit you as hard or harder if possible, and which is what India did. Plastered some of the very important air bases of Pakistan. The second one is political, where the decision on Indus Waters Treaty is still hurting Pakistan. They still want us to have a relook on the hold on IWT. And the final one is psychological, that ghuske marenge. This is the first time since 1971, Anjali, that India has entered into the heartland of Pakistan and hit them where it hurts the most.